Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Straight Talk for the Soul series, your vibrational, multidimensional vitamin, body, mind, and spirit. I'm Cari Murphy, your host, creator, and founder of this global broadcast and brilliant community of light. I want to extend a bright and a very beautiful good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you tuning in from around the world to join former neurobiologist from Yale and my friend, Jean Eng, and we're going to talk about the Arcturian harmonizing frequencies, relevant energies to calm turbulent times. So welcome home, all of you luminous light leaders and love activators and starlight messengers. This is your safe haven. It is a sacred space and a sanctuary for connection and renewal and restoration. It is a unity community to empower you and liberate you. And we're here today to provide some support and upliftment and relief to light you up on your journey. I do want to ask my favorite question, and that is, what is the best that could happen today? Well, let's intend to feel the healing and harmonizing frequencies from the Arcturians and our star families of the light and all of the cosmic and the galactic streams of divine love and support flowing here between all of us as we open our hearts and allow ourselves to hear and receive all of the information, the messages, and the energy that will liberate us in beautiful new ways. I encourage you to set an intention for what you wish to experience with us today. My personal intention with today's gathering is to be a pristine, clear ray of divine light and love, a transmitter of pure God consciousness, an immaculate instrument of the divine, in selfless service for boundless miracles to unfold here. And also just for soulfully soothing energy to flow through my voice and this entire sacred energetic space with grace and ease, welcoming and inviting in the highest divine support and participation throughout our time together. So I encourage you to sit back and just relax and breathe, of course, and open and receive. It's a blessing to highlight the work of wonderful Jean Eng today. He has a healing practice in California where he sees clients for a number of energy healing and shamanic healing practices. In addition, he teaches seminars that focus on the integration of science, spirituality, and healing. He received his BA from Stanford in human biology and philosophy and religious studies and was formally trained as a neurobiologist at Yale. After his post-doctoral fellowship, he decided to step into the role of a facilitator of healing in order to directly interact with helping people. Most of his work centers around the use of subtle energy to help align the subtle energy body, its channels, meridians, and energy centers to help restore balance and harmony so that healing can occur, whether it's physical or emotional or mental or spiritual. Jean does not see himself as the healer, but is part of the interconnectedness that occurs when the facilitator, the client, and source, love, God, interact to bring healing forth. So today, Jean will be sharing a healing frequency transmission called the Arcturian Harmonizing Frequencies. These frequencies from the Arcturians, they offset unbalancing energies that are hitting the planet on the physical, etheric, astral, causal, karmic, and spiritual dimensions. So we'll take some live callers later, so press star 2 to raise your hand. Jean will offer short mini healings. So again, that's star 2 to raise your hand, or you can write in our webcast and let us know if you have a question that way. So let us get started, everyone. Please join me in extending waves and waves of love and light and appreciation to Jean as I welcome him to the show. So Jean, welcome back, my friend.
Hi, Cari, and everyone. It's great to be back, and it's also enjoyable to talk here with the community.
Yes, it's been a little while, and the whole world has kind of changed since you were here last.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing to be able to still do this and connect with people all over the world. And I guess let's dive in with your work. And as I mentioned in the bio, you know, you have your BA from Stanford, your Ph.D. from Yale, former neurobiologist, and now you're channeling the Arcturians. So, how long has that been? For those who are new to your work, when did you step out of the old role and into this role as a facilitator of healing?
Yeah, I would say I think the initiation event, in terms of people, probably have had something similar in terms of their soul calling around 2004. And then in around 2007, I started to study with energy healers. First it was with actually like a one-on-one kind of initiation with a Russian psychic healer, kind of shamanic healer who was in Brighton Beach, which is not too far from Connecticut, where I was doing my Ph.D. work. And so from 2007, just to kind of condense everything, I didn't really start doing the Arcturian work publicly until 2012, which I think many people know is just an interesting date. There was kind of a prediction that new healing techniques and modalities would start to hit the planet. And even though I wasn't really consciously following that, when I kind of reflected, discussing kind of how things unfolded, it did actually coincide with that kind of prophecy or prediction. It was an Aztec prediction. But so that's kind of like a very brief, kind of in a nutshell, when things started.
Yeah. That was a good time for you to publicly begin doing all this. There's so many people who are on this show that, I hear around that time, started bringing forth some new things. So so the Arcturians, they are your primary, the primary star beings that you connect with. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I was hearing the word primary posse, but no, primary connection. Yeah, yeah, primary connection, exactly. Yeah, the Arcturians has kind of evolved to be sort of the main healing consciousness or frequency that I've sort of been facilitating. And there have been other connections and that have actually emerged as some healing offerings and trainings. One was called the Intergalactics. I'm not sure we ever did something on that.
No, but I saw that today, Gene, and I didn't know that was there. That we need to maybe offer that sometime. That looks like a wonderful program. It looked like when you were in Mount Shasta that work came through, right?
Yeah. It was in Mount Shasta. That was where the connection was made. So, which kind of has a lot of history, and of course people go there to connect with different with their connections. It's very easy to connect there. So but the Arcturians have kind of been really the main line, the main focus.
The main line, yes. So for this community is probably, I don't think that many would be unfamiliar with the Arcturians, but we do get new people all the time. So how do you describe the Arcturians? Clearly as a star system with star beings, but how would you describe who they are?
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the teachers I've connected with, he's not really in the physical plane anymore. I may have mentioned him in another interview. His name's Daskalos. His real name was Stylianos Atishalis. And he has nothing really to do with the ET or UFO, community. He was just a esoteric teacher on the island of Cyprus. But one of his main abilities was to go out of body. He called it, we would call it out of body travel. He called it exomatosis. And he did a lot of his healings from that state. Like, he was very advanced in that practice. And in these books that were written about him, he describes his experiences out of body and just, his direct experiences. And he said there were many extraterrestrial beings that he would meet that were very advanced, no longer needed a physical body karmically. That's how far advanced they were. And a lot of them were here to kind of like as brothers and sisters helping us kind of behind the scenes until people were kind of more ready to maybe make that conscious, humanity. And I kind of follow his framework because it makes sense to the way I connected with the Arcturians. And so basically, he would see them in what he called the noetic plane, which if people follow any kind of like framework or dimensional model, it's sort of like we have the physical dimension, and then like the prana or chi dimension, they usually call that like the etheric dimension. And then there's an emotional and mental dimension that's like the astral plane. So these beings, his noetic plane is basically the mental plane. So these beings are basically existing on the astral dimension or higher. And when we perceive them, like if we have kind of like what we might call a UFO encounter or an ET encounter, they're basically like slowing their vibration down to something that we can perceive physically. And then it usually looks like a sphere, or our brain interprets it in a certain way, like as a sphere, or what we might call it a craft, because, there's like a framework we have to like, we almost project onto their consciousness and energy that makes sense to our brain consciousness. But we can also, like, many people maybe here listening have done this, like use other maybe meditative, or I use journeying, shamanic journeying, where you can kind of meet them at their plane. And so they don't have to necessarily look like a craft or even have a body. You can kind of just meet them like at like as a consciousness. So
right.
Mm-hmm.
So many things I could ask you. So when you have gathered together, and specifically in groups, because I think there's such a powerful energy, like when you go to these sacred sites or when you're in Shasta or something, in situations like that, do you see the ships yourself, the Arcturian ships?
Yeah, we've had a lot of sightings. Like I was mentioning, I did a training. The first time I went out to Mount Shasta was actually to do a training with Stephen Greer, who is very well known in the UFO ET community, and he created like a protocol through consciousness to make these connections, and then like you just observe the sky. And ever since I learned that, then I started to kind of hold a retreat every year. And so people will, every time we went there, I mean, we would always see, like basically they look like lights in the sky, and they'll power up and then power down or disappear. And of course you have to rule out, things that are human-made, that are kind of in the night sky, like satellites and craft and, airplanes. But there's ways that you can tell that just make it very difficult for a human-made craft to do these appearances, particularly like what they call a power-up, which is it'll be completely dark, and then it'll look like at the level of a star, and this star will basically expand to about almost, some of them expand to the size of like a quarter, like, if you put a quarter in the sky, really big, and then come back down and disappear without moving. So, so we would see that, and that's kind of only like a fraction of what they call a contact experience, because like I was mentioning, the beings are not really in the physical plane.
Right.
So they're actually slowing their vibration down to do even something like a light phenomena like that. So there's a lot, probably like the tip of the iceberg is physical, and then 90 or even 99% of it is etheric, like energetic, or you'll see them in your dreams, or even hear tones, inner tones. So, yeah.
Right. Well, absolutely, and that's how you developed this Arcturian healing system, I would imagine, is through that kind of deeper connection with them on a consciousness level, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I was mentioning, just to kind of little background on the technique. So I did a fairly in-depth shamanic training with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, and I think what that was doing was giving me the tools, like in the shamanic model, basically healing models, like you work with helping spirits. And the way I see the Arcturians is very similar to that. Like they're they're like a helping guide or a spiritual being, much like we might connect with our holy guardian angel, in the same way of consciousness without a physical body. And so I use mostly shamanic journeying, which is just a way to kind of alter your state of consciousness. And I usually use drumming, to change my state of consciousness, to connect with them. And then, I received information for the training that way, or even like what we're presenting here.
Right, right. So let's talk about the purpose behind all of the transmissions that you bring forth, and the healing system too. What would you say the intention or the purpose behind all of it is?
Yeah, I think as people become, I guess the term is multidimensional, or see we have a very strong three-dimensional consciousness because we're kind of here in our physical body, but see the other realities, energetic, emotional, mental, and higher dimensions. Then they realize what I would call how important consciousness, intention, and frequency or vibration is to, I guess, just one's state of mind, one's enjoyment of reality, and one's framework of reality. And so what these higher beings, like I was mentioning, Dasklos, would see these beings as quite evolved, even cycles of evolution ahead of us, but not here in a superior way, but here to maybe just assist. They assist mostly through consciousness and vibration because they don't have a physical body or vehicle anymore. So that's how I see the Arcturians, is they can present, if we're open to it, higher frequencies, higher states of consciousness that can kind of assist us to raise maybe out of some of the lower vibrations that we might have created for ourselves, or just even as a collective or a community. Sometimes that can weigh us down, as what we're seeing right now acutely. And that's really what I perceive their assistance is, kind of raising that vibratory level.
Mm-hmm. We hear a lot as we speak about a lot of these star beings or collectives, and we hear about them dimensionally oftentimes. So the group that you work with of Arcturians, do they present themselves as a specific dimensional frequency band or not?
Yeah, I've seen some of those frameworks. I haven't the framework that I've been using in the Arcturian training, and that I was kind of referring to here, is like a 7-dimensional model. And I'll just mention it here and then kind of see if that makes sense to people, or maybe you can ask a question if there's something to clarify it. But so it's basically like the physical, etheric, which is like the pranic or chi or level, then the emotional, mental, and then the causal is like our karmic body, and these are also environmental bodies. And then the spiritual, which is like our soul level, and then the divine is where we're non-dual with the Godhead or source or love or the all. So I see the Arcturians. So we would have all 7 of those bodies, and that's why we're showing up with a physical body here. But let's say we pass from our physical body, then we would be sort of like just having an emotional, mental, and like those higher bodies. So I see the Arcturians sort of like at the mental, even causal level, like that's kind of where they're predominantly at. And that would not be hard and fast, just if I were to be asked, like where I kind of perceive them. And like I said, they can lower their vibration down so that we could maybe see them like maybe as a light or a light ship. And that would be very close to the physical, maybe like in the etheric physical level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that. And so when you're connecting with them, what does it feel like to you? Are there emotional qualities to them that you can sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for people when they, who've connected, and probably a lot of people here in the community, connect with their guides or angelic beings or different spiritual realities. It's like what I call a signature, like a signature vibration that you start collecting like a library of perceptions. So you kind of know like when your guides are in, it feels this way, or maybe it feels a certain part of your body starts to vibrate. So with the Arcturians, for me, which, I think it can be unique or idiosyncratic to people, although there's sometimes strong similarities, like with colors or just overall feeling. They feel very solid to me, almost like, I wouldn't say apersonal, but there's, it's almost like, for me, it's almost like get down to business. But maybe that's because of the role I'm, the connection and role I'm in, so with them. So it's very solid. They feel the frequency, and the feeling is almost like a very solid friend. No nonsense is but I think that part is idiosyncratic. And then the color that a lot of people report who come to like either classes or events or just or like mentioned like in a call is blue, some shade of vibrational blue.
So why do you feel that, we used the phrase earlier, your primary posse, why do you feel the Arcturians are yours?
Yeah, it was interesting, like when I was getting into healing, which I didn't have even a framework for interdimensional beings at the time, like or particularly ET beings, like enlightened ET beings, if you want to call them, like as another term. But I may have mentioned this in another interview together, that like I had been listening to my own intuitive voice, but one day during this period where I was training with healing, I just heard a kind of voice say I was Arcturian, and then I didn't even really remember where I had heard that word. But I did research later that I had read it in a book by Joshua David Stone, maybe 9 years earlier. So it had crossed my awareness, but I didn't have a framework for it, so it just went into my subconscious. And I think I basically got a transmission from that book that didn't unpack until like it was maybe ready, like 9 years later. So I think, I don't know if I would say I'm Arcturian or people would just say that just based on hearing me talk, but there's kind of like maybe part of your soul family that's just inherent. So I think it's part of my soul blueprint or information. And so it seems very natural.
Yeah, I don't know that I had asked you that before, so it just came up. And when you were talking about earlier that signature vibration, and I was asking about what it felt like with them, and you were mentioning spirit guides and angels and all of that. So do you also work with the angelics and spirit guides and other beings or collectives?
The framework that I think, and of course these are maybe names that just make the consciousness of these beings accessible to us, but that might be familiar to people. It's called the spiritual hierarchy, but and those would be angelic collectives or beings. I'll just give the names because I think they're familiar. So they're basically 9 ranks of angels. So angels, archangels, Archai, the Elohim, the Dynamis, and this is an ascending order, Cariates, the thrones, the cherubim, and the seraphim. So I feel very connected to those class of beings, and then also the spirits of the elements, so like air, fire, like water, earth, water, fire, air, space.
Yeah. Well, we've thank you for that. The last 2 days we've been focusing on angels and all all of the ones that you were speaking of. So that's beautiful that you feel that connection with those realms and as well. So interesting. Okay, so now let's dive into kind of what deeper into the topic today, because I know that the Arcturians have these harmonizing frequencies, and the intention today and during these times is really just to bring serenity and calm people, because these times can be turbulent, and for a lot of people, there's a lot that has happened last year in 2020. So much has changed and happened. So do you want to talk about their perspective on what's going on and you know, these healing frequencies that you want to bring through with regard to that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, it was based on a dream, a recent dream, and it seemed to be very relevant for the when we decided to have the interview together and what to offer. And I'll just kind of encapsulate the dream. So it was a very vivid dream, and I was present in like a classroom or a group that looked like people who I knew. And people might have heard or attended like astral classes. And basically the message is that these packages that I've been putting together, MP3 packages and so forth, were very important to help the groups that would like receive them, and myself too, to harmonize like other vibrations that may have been chaotic, or that hit the planet, or just that we create ourselves just in our learning process. And I thought, well, that's very relevant also for what we're kind of seeing here in the physical world now, kind of with the pandemic and so forth. But that they really, they act as a way for the Arcturians or the higher beings through these MP3s or like we have here a live class being offered to almost like offset those other vibrations. And it kind of that dream just hit it like home, because I wasn't like trying to incubate that or didn't even have that on my mind. So I was like, okay, now I kind of see why I've been, making these MP3s. I kind of knew that, but it didn't hit me that there would how important it was. So that's kind of why I kind of chose it, or just thought that would be a good thing to bring up or make more conscious, that it's a lot about vibration, and that the Arcturians and our guides, they can really provide us, I think, when we're open to it, like a harmonizing, almost like a complementary vibration to what's going on in our life.
Right. Yeah, anything that's disruptive and it balances it, or as you said, harmonizes it. And I'm looking at the package material, and we'll go more deeply into it later, because for the first time you're offering live online. I don't know if you're going to call them, well, it's just a series, a 3-part series, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. And you haven't done this before, so I'm very excited, where you're going to get together in a group and work with all of these harmonizing frequencies. And it says here there are 7 of them. So have you become familiar with them already?
Yeah. Well, these are probably sourced from that dream. A lot, I usually communicate with the Arcturians through shamanic journeying, which is a way to work in the astral with them. But once in a while, I will get a download through a dream. Maybe this is like the second time. And these are pretty new, these harmonizing frequencies. But it was meant to, because of the message from the dream, they were meant to like directly harmonize anything that would be unbalancing to our system right now. And it seems like it's, of course, we're working individually and maybe as a group, but it does seem like it's, hitting the entire planet, you could say, at this moment. And maybe there's a lot of acceleration on the soul level or learning. But so it's really kind of directly, it's the Arcturian response to what's going on right now. And yeah, they're broken up into, I don't know if we wanted to talk more in depth about it now, but they are broken up into those 7 dimensions that I mentioned. So like harmonizing each of those dimensions vibrationally.
So from your perspective and your broader perspective with theirs, how do you perceive what's been going on the planet, do you feel that it's for the purpose of soul acceleration, like you just mentioned, or
Mm-hmm.
is there a broader understanding that you have that you want to share?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess the overall term I use is positivity. It is a practice. It's a practice that I learned actually in Rudolf Steiner's work, and he had what he called 6 basic exercises, or there are actually 6 fundamental spiritual exercises to help. Actually, they actually help open your heart chakra, and I'll just mention one of them, which is positivity, and it is a practice, and basically you try to see the positive in whatever life experience you're having. So, for example, there was in the Essene Gospel of Thomas, Jesus was walking with his disciples, and there's a dog on the road who's dead, who's been actually rotting for a couple of days, and of course the disciples are repulsed by that. But Jesus basically says, "Oh, look how beautiful his teeth look." So it's kind of like, in a way that even in the face of death, you could see something positive about. That's kind of the parable lesson. But and it develops something in your heart chakra, it like opens something up. And so I do see like it is very tremendously. There's a lot of grief and a lot of pain on the planet. With people passing and suffering from the pandemic and kind of loss and also isolation. But I guess the spiritual practice that I'm seeing for all of us, or, in each person's way of dealing with what's going on personally, is to develop that positivity. So I do see it like as possibly a school, like an accelerated almost like we're accelerating through grades. Like we decided to like take maybe 3 grades in a year, rather than do it 1 grade per year, and as a planet. Yeah.
Yes, acceleration, definitely. I know you wanted to talk about acquiring a multidimensional immunity. What does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this idea of vibrations, things, and even on the cellular level, I think there's more science research actually kind of in the frontier science of how this actually probably even is highly developed in the military, but and more classified is how vibrations affect us all the way down to the cellular level. But the idea here is that the more harmonizing the vibration is, then of course that leads to all the way down to the cell level, and not only speaking at the emotional, mental level, kind of positive emotional states, balanced emotional states or mental states. But that when we get into other environments that might be where other people, let's say, are angry or upset or fearful, their vibrations kind of affect us. And if we don't have that kind of immunity, then it's almost like the tuning forks coming close to each other. Then we start to kind of maybe get disrupted or vibrate to their vibration. So I think what these higher beings and like the Arcturians can do, I was mentioning when you asked me how I perceive them, they're very stable, which I think is their vibration. Like they're like a tuning fork, like a very big tuning fork that's at a very stable vibration. So when you connect to them through resonance, you kind of go into resonance with their stable vibration. And then after a while, you can kind of hold that tone, even in the face of a lot of chaos around you, chaotic vibrations around you, whatever that might look like. So that's what I mean by spiritual immunity. It's kind of like like since it's out in the public mind right now, like a vibrational vaccine. Like we become like harmonized to a very stable level overall.
I love that. Yeah, and so no matter what's going on outside of us, whether it appears turbulent or chaotic or whatever, we're immune to that because we're so steady in holding that higher vibration. So you're not knocked off center. But I love the term multidimensional immunity. Yeah, I love it. And you just said like a vibrational vaccine. I liked that too. Okay, so now next in terms of what we were going to talk about was the difference between the particle versus the wave understanding of illness. You're certainly the person to speak to this. I would have no idea how to explain this difference. So let's hear it.
Oh yeah. No. So I guess some people may quantum mechanics has become much more interesting and I would guess it's popular in terms of how it could, because it reflected a lot of spiritual truths. And of course, quantum mechanics is talking about very small, particles, not so much like big things like our cells, or macroscopic things. But the conclusions were very similar to perhaps non-dual spiritual traditions. And the one experiment that I might refer to in terms of this particle versus wave idea of health and illness is the way you can look at light as an experiment. And some people have been studying this, maybe familiar with this. So if you set up so light has two properties. It can be a particle or it can be a wave. And so it just depends on how you set up the experiment, which in kind of quantum mechanics language is how you observe the light will actually determine what you perceive. So, and then the other property kind of drops down to zero. So if you decide to observe light as a particle, meaning you set up the experiment to see its particle nature, you see all these dots on the screen of the light that's coming through, like your apparatus. But then the wave aspect, you basically no longer can perceive it, at least within the experiment. So it kind of dropped to zero. And then if you set up the experiment to see the characteristics of the wave particle, the wave aspect of light, then you see these wavy lines on this, the readout. But you no longer can perceive, at least within the experiment, the particle nature. So basically, reality has both these two dynamics, the particle and the wave, and a lot of it has to do with our perception of reality at the moment, like what we're trying to tune into. So now applying it to health and illness, and this may make more sense now to people. Basically, if you take any kind of explanation through biology currently, or any advanced molecular biology, or just you read the Times about vaccines and so forth, or you see one of their diagrams, or even the virus, it's going to look like a particle. Basically, our current scientific model is particle based. So you'll see the vaccine like a ball, or with spikes on it, or you'll see a drug. It will look like a ball that will attach to some kind of receptor on a cell membrane, and it looks very like blocks, which is the particle nature of how we are studying things. But if you take the idea that actually in reality those things actually also could be a wave, it just depends on how you're setting up the experiment, which isn't really the way science is set up right now. Basically biological science is still studying things as a particle, and not so much as what quantum mechanics already showed, that it also has this dual nature as a wave. Now, if you look at it as a wave, it has really interesting implications, because this idea of resonance becomes really important. So, a wave could transmit across time and space. So, even though we may not be in contact with a virus, its wave aspect, we could still be, in contact with it. So that's why people might all of a sudden they're not really so-called sick, but they just feel this heaviness going on right now because they may be actually interacting with the wave nature of what's going on, which they don't have to be in direct contact or even have kind of a particle that they would identify as a virus on them. But in the complement, you could also create what I was mentioning before, which is what we were kind of talking about with that vibrational immunity, is that if you can create healthy, balanced vibrations within yourself, then you become sort of immune to the kind of wave nature of illnesses, which may be which isn't a particle, but is more like a vibration that's in the environment. So that's why it's interesting to at least use both models. There's not like either or, but both is kind of what the implication is. Mm-hmm.
So we could perceive life from the wave perspective all the time if we wanted to, right? I mean, that's more of the quantum way of perceiving everything, and it would seem like that's the most liberating perspective, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's ways that you could call it protect your environment or yourself, like for example, geometrical shapes are basically frozen waves. It's another way to see geometry of shape. So like if you see a wave, like usually you have to see a motion of a wave, but if you froze it, that's actually a shape. And that's what geometry is. So you could actually put certain geometries like on your body or in your environment. And even though you don't see it moving at the physical level, at the etheric level, it's actually creating a vibration that could either be harmonizing or disharmonizing. And that's kind of like the science of some of these healing modalities, like the one I studied, where a lot of these concepts came out of our biogeometry. So they will create certain shapes that they've tested that they know create harmonizing vibrations. So like shapes, colors are all about vibration. And so that's why you could create certain colors that may be healing for you on this vibratory
Would that be
level.
different depending on the individual, or are there generally harmonizing colors?
It's both. So you would, there's ways to test, is this good for a person? You could do muscle testing, you could use pendulums. So you basically use like a vibrational sensing technique. But some colors overall have, certain qualities, but then based on a person's overall vibratory pattern, then some things will be better for this person and some other color might be better for another person.
Right.
At that time. Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. I love the way that you describe and explain these things. Yes. Okay. I'm glad we got into that. And before we're going to take some callers. Again, press *2 to raise your hand, and Jean will do some short mini readings, and then we're going to do a group transmission later. But before we do, one last thing that I want us to cover that feels important is how anyone can begin working with these higher beings or their higher self and different healing frequencies to harmonize or offset any unbalance in their environment. So what can you share about that? Because it's not just reserved for certain people, this ability to connect with higher beings.
Yeah, exactly. So just kind of drawing back to Daskalos, just because that seems to be like a keynote in his perception when he was out of body, is that when he saw these advanced beings, who he called extraterrestrial beings because they were from different planets, but they weren't at the physical level anymore. They were in these, other dimensions, let's say the astral. A lot of them didn't want to be known publicly yet. They were kind of basically working behind the scenes. And a lot of our guides, before we're ready to make them conscious, let's say our holy guardian angel or certain angelic beings, they've been helping us all along, even maybe before we were born, and then when we were a baby and so forth, and maybe even at very critical life junctures. But we don't necessarily have to be conscious of that. Maybe because to be conscious of an angel, particularly the way we're raised now in the modern world, we might be ostracized, or we might, it might not be in the framework. So at the appropriate time, we become more, we can create a conscious relationship with them without destabilizing kind of our life. And then what happens is then you can kind of invite, the key point with what I found with the higher beings is whatever the level or whatever type, like angelic collective or star collective, is they respect our free will. So when we're kind of, the way you would invite, let's say, if you wanted to work with the Arcturians, if this was the first time, is simply just by making the intention that you're open to making the connection or receiving any healing that they have to offer. And that could be like in your meditation or before you go to sleep is a great time, if that's kind of a more comfortable way to do it. Or there's these more formal ways that people know, like journeying, which is kind of a little bit specialized. But simply like if you're in your meditation or prayer, you simply just ask, like, I'm open to receiving like a healing vibration from the Arcturians. That could be just that could be the start.
Right. Yes, and I encourage everyone, if they haven't invited these connections, to do so. If it feels like the time is right for you. You made some good points that, they're always there, but it's really, if someone is ready for that opening for a more conscious connection. But before we take callers, Jean, we started talking about your offer, which is a 3-part live series that begins March 8th. It's 3 different sessions with you in a group setting with these Arcturian harmonizing frequencies. I want to let people know where they can sign up for this. It's at straighttalkforthesoul.com. Click on our marketplace and you will see Gene's smiling face. Click on his picture and you will see this offer. Gene, what do you want to add about this 3-part series that you're offering?
Yeah. So there's kind of a dual, offering, or what you receive from this. So there's a live event and it's recorded, and so you get the sort of live session, and we're working with the harmonizing frequencies, and kind of the best way is we'll have the kind of group transmission on one of them, or maybe 2 of them, just so people can really get a sense of them. And then there's also working with them in the second hour through a more meditative practice. So if you it's like the yin and the yang. So the yin is more just receiving the frequencies, which is very good and very healing, so you don't have to kind of work in any kind of active way. And then the more yang way is sort of like you're in a meditative practice, and you can receive the frequencies or make the connections to the Arcturians if you want, or your guides. And so each of those 3 sessions is broken up into that, like first and second hour. And then you get the recordings. So before I was presenting like the MP3 recordings, and but so here, like after the session, you can use the recordings to kind of reconnect to the information field. And it wouldn't be like a repeat. It's like a way to continue to work dynamically in a fresh way with the information field that the Arcturians kind of created around these harmonizing frequencies. That I just think, was just important, like I mentioned from that message in the dream, for these particular harmonizing frequencies to kind of create that strong, stable, metaphorically what we said, tuning fork of balance. That's really what these frequencies are about in our field, so that after a while you don't need the recordings, you don't need, you're holding that vibration of stability or harmonization in yourself on all the 7 subtle bodies.
It sounds like it would be beneficial to listen to the recordings multiple times until they're holding that stable vibration. And the disruptive frequencies, it could be illness for some of you, just fogginess, cloudiness, mistrust, that is a big one, unrest, just a lack of energy or hope or any of those things. So it's really just bringing all of that into balance. And if someone is listening right now and it is in late March or even April or May, again, all of these will be recorded so that you can listen if this is resonating with you. And Jean, you've also offered a bonus, and that is the Arcturian Futures Transmission. What is that?
Oh yeah, that's also a new. That's a great program, and what that does is there's a transmission involved with that, also Arcturian based, and it basically downloads from your spiritual body, which is where your Akashic records are, your most ideal future in like 5 time frames. So it's like 3 months down from when you listen to it, then 1 year, and then 6 months, then 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and then your next life. So you basically are downloading the information package that would give you the most ideal sort of blueprint for those time points. So that's the transmission piece. It's kind of working with time, which is always really unique from a soul level to work with, and the Akashic record information that we all have, where time is like, there's really no time. It's all like one information field. And then we break it down into the past, present, and future, or it kind of rolls out in that way in the physical dimension. And then there's a practice that is it's somewhat magical, but it's a writing practice. You basically write, that I guide people through. You write down what you will look like 5 years from now in your most ideal setting. So like you just write down, oh, this happened, that happened, as if you were 5 years ahead. Like all these good things happened to me. And then you kind of seal it in an envelope. And it's amazing that when people do that, how much of it actually comes true. So.
Oh my gosh, I used to do that when I used to work with private clients years ago, and we would work together for a year. I would start off with them doing that, and I would have them record it in their own voice and listen to it. And it was powerful to see a year later, all of their dreams or the highest expression of what they hoped for in their lives actually was realized. So that's powerful. So Jean, thank you for creating this. As I said, this is your first time doing a live online virtual event. So thank you for doing that. Someone had asked, let's see, Sahara asked, can you explain the difference between this vibrational special offer and the DNA adjustment you're offering? I'm not sure I understand. Do you understand that question?
Yeah, I mean, there's a DNA activation that I presented that she may be referring to. And, the DNA activation, that's kind of accessing, again, the Akashic record blueprint that we each have. And you could say that at a certain dimensional space, we refer to it as a DNA. And DNA kind of at the physical level is our blueprint for our physical body. And then in the more holistic community or framework, we've been also talking about DNA at other dimensional levels, like maybe it's 12-strand DNA that kind of maybe encompasses other dimensions of ourself as a blueprint. So in the Arcturian DNA activation that Sahara is referring to, we're trying to ask the assistants, the Arcturians, to express our most ideal blueprint pattern from that kind of soul DNA. And then in this new offering, or this offering with the Arcturian harmonizing frequencies, these are frequencies that the Arcturians would bring in to either offset any chaotic vibrations that could be physical illness or emotional, mental upheaval, or even higher like karmic and soul, and sort of almost like act as a complementary ray or vibrational wave to rebalance our vibrational body. That is kind of the difference.
Okay. Sahara, I hope that was helpful. Jean, I would love to take some live callers. As you mentioned, you can do some short mini healings here. So you just need their name and basically what they're being challenged by in the moment, or what's the best way to go about this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They type in anything, just their name and what their intentions are, what they're going through, and if they wanted to call in, I'm not sure that was available. They could just call in and just say.
Yeah, we have both.
Yeah.
We have both.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah.
do both.
Yeah.
We'll do some
Okay.
live callers, and then I'll go to the webcast because quite a few people wrote in as well. Also, if you wrote into the webcast at the beginning of the show, let me know you're still here so that if we go to you, you can write back and let us know and respond to us. So, okay, our first live caller that we are going to is area code 312. 312, it looks like in Chicago. You're live.
Hi, Jean and Cari. Thank you so much for taking my call. How are you?
Hi, wonderful. How are you? What's your name?
My name is Jane.
Hi,
I'm
Jane.
actually from Minnesota still.
Okay.
Just in case that matters. I don't know if it does.
No, it doesn't. It just says Chicago here.
Right. Okay. So my knee, I injured it back in October, and it really is not, it's not getting better at a rate that I find satisfactory. Obviously, it's almost March, and I'm wondering if there's anything I can do or, any way to heal it further.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Thanks for calling in, Jane. And, we can, there's a couple frequencies in the Arcturian Healing Method that could work on that. There's something called the Arcturian repatterning of cells. And then there's another very large general healing frequency called Metatron Melchizedek Arcturian Mandala healing frequency. So we could run that on your knee, yeah. And then people who are listening, they'll also be exposed to frequencies. And of course, you can have your own intention for what you'd like those frequencies to work on.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Also, yeah, great. And then also if people are listening to this as a replay or recording, you'll also be accessing those frequencies now.
Okay. Wonderful. Thanks, Jane, for
Thank you
for bringing this forth through Jean. All right, Jean, go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, we're starting. So we're starting with the Arcturian repatterning of cells. And for people who are new to how I channel the frequencies, I usually will say the name of the frequency, and then I'm silent as the energies are working on your system. And then every so often I'll say something just so that you know I'm here. Now we're channeling the Metatron Melchizedek Arcturian Mandala healing frequency. Continue to channel the Metatron Melchizedek Arcturian mandala healing frequency. And that concluded the second frequency, and that concludes the short session. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
Wow. So for Jane, is that something that will unfold over the rest of the day, or do people typically feel something right away? Jane, did you feel anything?
Yeah, it actually straightens a little better.
And does that continue, Jean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Something immediate can happen. A lot of times people will feel something vibrationally. If it's reached the physical level, then, it could happen right away, or the next couple of days, things will get better. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jane, wishing you so much relief and with your knee.
Great. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, thanks, Jane.
Okay. And thank you, Jean. Jean and Jane. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Next caller is area code 989. You're live with us.
Yes. Hello. This is Mary.
Well, hi, Mary.
Hello,
welcome.
Mary. Thank you. I was wondering if there's anything that Jean can do in the form of any kind of process to help me raise my consciousness. I would just really love to be a healer, and I don't know, I feel like something's blocking me from that.
Well, that's good. Yeah, thanks for that request, and I'm sure other people would really benefit from these frequencies.
Good.
For that. There's a frequency called the Arcturian primordial frequency, or primordial awareness frequency, and it helps us connect with our divine self, that dimension where we're non-dual with the divine or God or love. And so that's very helpful, and then that will percolate through all the other dimensions all the way down to your physical level.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll,
all right.
Does that sound good?
Yes. Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah.
Bring it on,
right,
Jean.
Bring it on. Turn it up.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get started. Okay, so we're starting the Arcturian primordial awareness frequency. Continuing to channel the Arcturian primordial awareness frequency. continuing with just the last phase of the Arcturian primordial awareness frequency. And that completes the short energy session. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes, snap your fingers. Yeah, great.
And let it continue expanding, Mary.
Wow, great. Thank you so much. I felt a little tingly at the top of my head.
Oh,
good.
Great. Yeah.
Yay.
Thanks.
Let it continue, Mary.
Look forward to a raised consciousness. Thank you so much, and thank you for taking my call today. Really enjoyed the
you're
program.
so welcome, Mary.
Thank
you. All right. And I want to say, let's see, Sahara wrote back in, and for Jane, who just had that other frequency, Sonia said, Jean, it's amazing how strong the frequencies are that you're sending. She said, I had an incredible experience a couple of years ago with that transmission for my knee, and it completely restored the entire area. So for Jane, that is good news. So hopefully that happens for Jane as well. Sonia did go, okay, I'm mixing up messages here. Okay, Sonia wrote back in and said, do you amplify these frequencies with the support of an instrument, or is it only you just being a strong amplifier by nature? She said, amazing.
That's the question. Yeah, no, there's no physical instrument. It's more the Arcturians actually, and kind of like holding the physical space for them to just allow their consciousness and energy, and the guides of the person and their higher self.
Mm-hmm. How do you know when it's complete? I mean, is it a feeling that you have, or is it a message from them like, we're done? Or
oh no, that's a great question. Yeah, exactly. They send like a little post-it note. No,
wrap it up.
Vibrationally, exactly. It's like I feel like the current running on me, for lack of a better or for a descriptive term, and then because it has its own intelligence, the current just will shut off, and then I know it's done.
It's complete. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sonia, I'm going to read hers because I think other people could also benefit from this one. She said, Jean, thank you. My name is Sonia from Basel. I would love some healing from you to support the intention that I set in my heart for this year of 2021, which was to lovingly free my heart and attract light and harmonic relationships. Yes. I feel everybody could benefit from that. So is there a frequency that would be helpful for this?
There's something called the Arcturian Divine Fire frequencies. And we can run that. And there's like 7 of them. We'll run all 7. They're each for the different subtle body levels. Physical, etheric, emotional, mental, causal, spiritual, and divine. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So we're starting with the Arcturian Divine Fire healing frequency for Sonia's intention, and also whatever your intention you're holding now, who's listening to this. Continuing to channel the Arcturian divine fire healing frequencies on the physical, etheric, emotional, mental, causal, spiritual, and divine levels. Continue to channel the Arcturian divine fire healing frequencies. That completes the session.
Beautiful.
So you can open your eyes.
She already said amazing with a bunch of exclamation points, and thank you.
Cool.
Anita from Milwaukee wrote in and said, "Whoa, I always see the energies coming through my crown, and Jean's consciousness-raising transmission went quite deep. It felt wonderful. Thank you, Jean, Cari, and the Arcturians." Thank you for writing in and being with us.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, this is a good question, and then I'm going to take one more that I feel will be beneficial for everyone. I'm going to try to pronounce your name as well as I can. Aishwarya Nakar. She is from Germany. She said, "Love you, Cari, and thank you for what you're doing. Love you too." She said, how do I get away of the fear while trying to connect with higher dimensional beings? Is there a practice that I can do to regularly connect with them? And in what form of communication can I receive these messages? I mean, the primary thing that stood out to me was, how does she get away from the fear of connection?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think we all have that. Like, I think there's that inherent sense of the unknown, or connecting to something that's, also particularly because it's not physical. Well, there is a frequency that could be very helpful for that. That's in the Arcturian Healing Method, called the Arcturian Freedom Frequency, and it's meant to clear particularly the astral, like the emotional, mental body, fear thought forms. So we'll run that, and that could be helpful. But I would, the suggestion, just more on a cognitive level and experiential level, is just to take it naturally and slowly. To be open to what you feel comfortable with, but there's no rush, no race, and there's no right or wrong, there's no judgment, and to take it just as you feel natural. And that was the only comment on that. So and then as that unfolds, there'll be things that kind of you see in your environment or your experience that will stabilize or bring trust to the process.
So this particular frequency is really about freedom from fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, okay. We're going to run the Arcturian Freedom Frequency now for everyone who's listening. Particularly for, I think it's Aisha.
Aishwarya. Aishwarya.
So we're running the Arcturian Freedom Frequency. Continuing the channel of the Arcturian freedom frequency. Continuing to channel the Arcturian freedom frequency. That completes the session with the Arcturian freedom frequency.
Thank you, Jean. And that was wonderful. All of them. I'm just going to read a few of these comments that have come in, and then you want to do another transmission, right? After that, is that correct?
Yeah, we can do the harmonizing the frequencies.
Yes.
That are kind of. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anita said, "Hi, Cari and Jean and the Arcturians. Thank you for helping us." Well, this is asking for another transmission. I think based on time, Anita, just stay with us and we'll do the group one here in a second. Jane ended up writing back in and just said, "Thank you for this wonderful show. Cari, Jean, thank you for the healing frequencies for my knee. I appreciate the comment about a complete knee healing." Yeah, that was great to hear. Clive from London. Hi, Clive. You said, "Cari, your voice resonates so strongly with me. It's pure and angelic." Thank you, Clive. He said, "I also believe that I am connected to the Arcturians. Can Jean please send us forgiveness energy?" I don't know what that's about, but what's it? How can you respond to that?
Oh yeah, there's actually there is an Arcturian forgiveness frequency.
Okay.
It's actually part of the Arcturian. There's a series in the Arcturian Healing Method called the Arcturian 12 Soul Night Qualities, and their healing frequencies, and one of them is forgiveness. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll definitely channel that. And so if someone's like trying to develop that in themselves, or like in a session, if someone's trying to, as part of their healing process, is trying to, let's say, let go of something or forgive someone, which of course is very deep healing. This helps facilitate that with the help of the Arcturians. Okay.
Okay.
So
yes, let's do it.
We can channel that. Okay. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, then we can do the transmission. Okay. So we're starting with the Arcturian soul night quality for forgiveness. Continuing the channeling for the Arcturian soul night quality for forgiveness. Continuing to deepen the exposure to the Arcturian soul night quality for forgiveness. And that completes the frequency session there.
Wonderful. Wow. And Clive, thank you for that, for bringing that forth. And the beautiful girl in Germany that I'm not saying her name very beautifully, but wrote back and just said, thank you so much, love you. I could feel the energy in my body. That was from the one before. So
Okay.
thank you for writing back in. And to all of you who wrote in with more of the personal requests, I want to say thank you. And I would put your intention into this group transmission that Jean is going to take us through right now. And this is the harmonizing transmission frequencies that we spoke of earlier that you'll be highlighting in the special offer group. So do you need any water or anything, Jean, before we go forward, or you ready to dive into that?
Oh yeah, we can dive in, and people who wrote their intentions, even though I haven't consciously aware of them, we'll put that, like you said, in the field, and they'll be worked on. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beautiful. How do you, what is the best way for all of us to enter into this, with a specific intention or a more general one? What do you feel is best?
Yeah, so there's 7 of these harmonizing frequencies, and we're going to focus on the etheric level one. So that's your pranic or chi body. But you can really hold any intention that you'd like, whether it be physical, energetic, emotional, mental, or higher, spiritual. And so you can have a very specific intention, or even more than one, that the energies will work on. Or you could do what I call the quantum approach, meaning wherever it's most needed or best, and you're kind of leaving it to the intelligence of your higher self and the energy to find that.
That sounds like a good plan. I'll do that. All right, Jean. Well, thank you in advance. And if those of you, some people just came on actually, so just know that when Jean is transmitting all of these frequencies, there is some silence at times, so just know we're all still here, and and it's just running. So okay, Jean, thank you again.
Okay, yeah, great. We're starting the Arcturian etheric harmonizing frequency. We're continuing with the running of the Arcturian etheric harmonizing frequency. You can simply silently state your specific intention for where the energies will work. Or if you'd like, you can keep it open or quantum, allowing the intelligence of your higher self and your guides and the Arcturians to determine where it's best to work. We're continuing to deepen the exposure to the Arcturian etheric harmonizing frequency. Continuing to entering now a second deepening phase of the Arcturian etheric harmonizing frequency. Now we're entering a final third deepening phase, utilizing the Arcturian etheric harmonizing frequency. And that completes the exposure to the Arcturian etheric harmonizing frequency.
Beautiful, Jean. Thank you. How is everybody doing? And thank you to you and to the Arcturians for all of the different transmissions. Really, really honored and grateful to have been a part of that with you and everyone here, Jean. And would love to hear from any of you who want to write in. I know Clive did write back in from London and said, thank you and love to both of you. I don't even know why I chose forgiveness. It just came to me. I felt a strong release and hoped it helped others. Hope it helped others too. Yes, Clive, and thank you for that. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people can really feel this from what I'm reading from the earlier comments. Since we just came out of that one, I don't know about this one, but I'm sure they do. So do you find it's different with people, Jean? Some people feel something or a lot and some feel nothing at all. And if they feel nothing at all, is something still happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. The amount of healing or balancing it doesn't correlate or isn't connected to how much one feels. Of course, it's great to feel a lot or see a lot or hear inner tones. Some people, like you said, don't feel or see or hear anything, and then they have huge shifts or transformations. So yeah, that's the thing not to get kind of connected to, both as a facilitator or the recipient. So really tremendous things can happen either way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that felt significant to mention. So thank you for that. And Jean, so as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that you feel is significant to share, or a final message that you want to leave our beautiful audience members with? Just want to give you the opportunity to share anything else that is coming up to share.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks so much. It was great. It was also enjoyable to talk, and like Clive was saying, your voice is great and carries the pure message of the energies. And it's always great to connect with people in this way. I think more and more we're all connecting in what I call these astral platforms, Zoom or different online platforms. And I think it is a way to allow the frequencies to come through. In many ways, it allows us not necessarily to be only locked into physical perception. And what I've found is by having to be on the kind of Zoom or online platforms, it actually allows our awareness to be more focused in these higher dimensional states, almost out of obligation. And so we're kind of more directly connected to these different vibratory realities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's nice because you can really feel that group energy, and it really enhances the experience for everyone. So as I mentioned before, I really appreciate you offering these live group calls. And for those of you who are feeling called to participate, remember it begins March the 8th. And it'll also go on March 8th, 9th, and 10th. And, of course, it will all be recorded for you. So, Jean, thank you again for all that you're doing on the planet and for all that you shared here today. It's always fascinating and uplifting and heartwarming when you're here. You have such a gentle energy, and so I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Cari, and thanks so much for inviting me to the show and for having the time to talk here and to connect with everyone here. Yeah, the energy is very palpable. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, so to everybody who has joined us, thank you for the gift of your time, your openness, your love, your presence, your willingness and readiness to receive all of these frequencies. It's a true gift to have you with us. And as we bring the show to a close today, please acknowledge that this beautiful invitation to actually receive even more support, that's the opening and the invitation now. So I hope that you will really consider and review the special offer that Jean has created for all of you. And now just remember that you are brilliant, you are resilient, and you are dearly loved. Thank you for joining us on this really brilliant, soulful adventure today. I am sending waves and waves of grace and glory and gratitude from my heart to yours. May you feel it, receive it, and please offer it to those you encounter today or tonight, wherever you happen to be in the world. And as always, until next time, please give yourself full permission to shine instead of shrink, express instead of suppress, and own that amazing, powerful glow of yours. I'll see you all back here in this playground of light next time. Bye, everyone.